Welcome to Wired to Hunt's Rut Fresh Radio, bringing you the latest reports from the Whitetail Woods. And now, your hosts, Casey Smith and Tyler Jones.
This is Rut Fresh Radio, powered by Vortex Optics. I'm your host, KC Smith. The doldrums of December can be a downer. However, there is a glimmer of hope, and that hope is big bucks. Welcome to Rut Fresh Radio, powered by Vortex Optics. I'm your host, KC Smith. Your other host, Tyler Jones, is here as well. And we have the one and the only, the distinguished Arkansan, Clay Newcomb.
That's right.
That's right.
Clay
I always
Newcomb.
want to call you Clay Clayton because it's fun.
Have my whole life, Casey.
I know. You asked me tonight what my name stood for, so now we're even.
I asked him if people called him Casey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot.
Like Casey.
A lot.
Yeah, actually, in the intro to this podcast.
The intro of this podcast, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
but that's
much.
all right. It's names are fun, man, because if you take yourself too seriously, you get mad about stuff like that. But if you don't, then you just
Casey is a
roll with it.
deer-killing name, though.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a barbecue name.
I mean, nothing against Matt or
Yeah.
Josh.
the Matts of the world. Yeah,
Josh,
I
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some great
I know who you're
Matts
talking
and
about.
Joshes
Yeah.
that are deer killers, but I just don't think the deer
The marks
shaking their
of the
boots.
world, right? The marks of the world. We got to. But we actually are on a hunt in Arkansas together right now, having a good time, being meat eater crew members. Let's let the cat out of the bag here. Tyler and myself have joined the meat eater crew, doing some stuff officially. We've been working together for a while. We're going to keep doing that, and but all the element stuff that you've seen us do is still going to be about the same as it always has been. We're going to keep on chasing deer around and having fun. And
So
doing our
you
thing.
guys are, first of all, this is incredible. This is great. But just for everybody out there, like everything's going to stay the same. Y'all still are going to be pumping stuff on the YouTube channel.
Yep.
Y'all are still going to be traveling, hunting,
Podcasting.
whitetails,
Yep.
pigs,
Yep.
doing the element podcast.
Yeah, it all still exists.
You're just on the meat eater team now.
That's right,
Yeah.
man.
That's great.
On
That's
team,
really good.
Team Clay.
Team Clay.
That's right.
Hey, I kind of, no one gave me permission to do this, but like I claim where I live as Meat Eater South.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
I mean, now that y'all are further south than me,
What do you mean meet eater Southwest?
yeah, y'all can be Meat Eater Southwest.
Does that work?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, if East Texas is Southwest, I don't know.
Southwest of where you are.
True.
Yeah.
True.
It's all about perspective.
Very true.
Yeah.
And so is the Whitetail Rut.
That is.
Yes.
That is. So across the country, the Rut is doing all kinds of stuff. We talked to guys today who have every opinion of the Rut.
Yeah.
The Rut did something weird this year, and maybe you have insight to this, but it seemed like across the country is about 2 weeks late, which is a large discrepancy for what something that's supposed to be controlled by diurnal cycles, right? So, or however you say it, the sun and the moon and stuff.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about that?
Well, that would be pretty close to what I experienced, and I would attributed it to weather. Like the most intense whitetail hunting I did was the first 8 days of November, and typically in the places I'm hunting, that's a really incredible time to hunt, and it really wasn't. And at the time, we were like, man, it's kind of like it's a week delayed. So that's actually the first time I've heard that. But I feel like as hunters, we always have some anomaly every year that makes it different. And so, like, is there really a standard rut? That's kind of my thing, because we sure hadn't had one anytime. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
there's always a reason for
Yeah.
something to be squirrely.
Absolutely. I feel like I've said this before, but a lot of the whitetail hunting information kind of radiates from Iowa out in general. That's where a lot of the stone cold killers of the past lived and killed big deer. Michigan, some, yeah, too. But those northern Midwest latitudes,
Yeah.
I think things are still pretty consistent there. But you start getting further and further from that nucleus, like things get different. And I understand that the weather cannot have an effect on a doe's estrus cycle. I get that. But it has an effect on perceived movement, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that this week, actually. It's real hot first day we got here, and didn't see as much as what we probably did today. So, weather is almost everything when it comes to whitetail hunting. Like it's such a, I wouldn't say overlooked detail, but it's just so commonplace that we just kind of accept it without really putting emphasis on like maybe paying attention to some of the small discrepancies that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Wind direction is going to be a different one for us tomorrow. We've been having a pretty consistent wind, and then now it's going to change in the morning, and we have to kind of decide what we're going to do with that.
Well, I think any kind of change is going to be good because up until this point, what's been happening hadn't been working. So
Clay,
something changing is going to be good.
We needed you to show us how to kill deer in Arkansas.
Man, I might as well be hunting whitetail deer in Spain. Like
that would be difficult.
This is we are in my home state, which I love, but I've never hunted in the Delta. Mm-hmm. We're in the eastern side of the state, and it's just Arkansas is very much so divided, like almost equally in half from the northeast corner to the southwest corner, and the northwest big triangle, if Arkansas was a square, is for the most part mountainous, and the other triangle is influenced by the Mississippi River Delta. And so it's just different.
You're familiar much more with the mountainous stuff.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like you told me before this hunt that you're really excited about it because you always want to get down here?
Yes.
Do you feel like you're more adept at hunting the mountain whitetails, even though maybe it's a better hunt down here as far as what people would consider? Like,
are you saying would I know that better?
If I gave you 5 days and said, "Hey, Clay, go hunt,"
I would pick the mountains.
You would.
Yeah, because we've struggled down here big time. I mean, I have just trying to figure out. I mean, the things that I have deeply ingrained in me in terms of topography and cover of what these deer are going to do. These deer don't at all, not even remotely. And so it's kind of like I texted Brent Reeves and I said, "This is like learning a different language." It's like, does a deer walk through this stuff? Like the deer that I know don't walk through this stuff; they go around it. And so it's just.
You mentioned several times that you wouldn't call something thick if you were back home.
Yeah.
So it's thicker back home is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so not to get into the weeds, I guess the pun was intended.
Hey, that's pretty good.
But everybody said we got to find the thick stuff down here. And thick is a relative term. I mean, back home thick means like you can't walk through it. Briars, like.
Down here it's like thick as Donald Trump's hair.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's
it's relative,
At home for us, we live in fairly similar habitats. Yours is more mountainous, but same kind of weeds and stuff, right? Like it's pretty similar. And like there's stuff that's so thick that you don't hunt there,
right?
Because it's not great hunting. The deer don't really go up in there very much. It's kind of it's a monoculture of sorts, But here, there's really none of that.
You shoot more than 3 yards.
Yes, exactly. They don't really have that here.
Right.
You have these little pockets of cover, and I think that's probably has to do with the, open hardwoods type terrain. That's a hard thing to learn how to hunt. Big wood stuff is tough.
And you got to see deer. Like right now, I'm walking through the woods, and I don't have this database in my mind going, "Oh, I've killed a deer in a spot like this."
Yeah,
before.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's so meaningful.
That's a good point.
So meaningful. And I walk through the woods and I go, I don't know if I should hang in that tree or not. There may not have been a deer walked by this in the last 5 years.
I know that's the thing. The woods anywhere are difficult for that reason. I feel like, it doesn't matter where you are. If you cannot observe deer during your hunts, your learning curve is tremendous.
And we're not seeing deer while we're even scouting. We're covering big.
I haven't jumped a deer yet that I know of.
And And that's what I'm saying. Like we're not. If you're sitting and seeing 3 or 4 deer sightings, you can kind of be like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And we've probably had that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I've seen 1 deer during a hunt on this trip.
I've seen 1 deer from a stand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saw 2 yesterday from the ground walking in with KC. Mm-hmm. And
I hunted
it
from the ground a few times. So I've seen a few deer, but and I saw 2 from the stand first evening, and they were the color of the woods. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I've seen deer that match as good as these deer.
Really?
It's wild. Yeah. It's strange.
Yep.
And so that kind of adds a whole nother complexity to things of just they not stick out very good, and they're smaller bodied animals, and all this just makes it a little difficult.
It's something that deer in the South tend to do is get real gray in December. I feel like we see it in Texas a lot, and in this habitat and in Texas and other habitats, December is gray, and the habitat is gray. The dirt is gray. The leaves have, broken down and they're gray. Like, I mean, dude, it's hard to see deer, man.
It is. You know how I knew those deer were there? I heard an acorn crunch.
Did you really?
Yeah, that's how I knew that deer was there. I heard an acorn crunch, and I was like, what was that? Because it was too late for squirrels to be out. So I was like, well, that's not a squirrel. I turned around, and 50 yards away, there were 2 does. The only way I could just see their legs, that white leg. That's all I could see. So, yeah.
I had the doe I saw tonight was real light colored, and I still struggled to see her. But I was in a little bit lighter habitat. I was in more of a wetland with that yellow grass and stuff. But the only reason I knew she was there is I thought I heard some footsteps.
Yeah.
And she was at 45.
Yeah.
And not exactly where I thought I heard the footsteps.
I heard a little something, and I turned around, there was deer tonight. It's like, man, crazy.
Yeah.
Clay, as a native Arkansasan, I'm going to give you the honor of giving us a scale of 1 to 10 for Arkansas as an honorary rating here.
This is a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. What do you think the buck moving is going to be going forward?
Well, I mean, back home, I would say it would be very low in the mountains right now, except for, this quote-unquote second rut when some of these fawns come back in mid-December, which is real and happens. I see a little spike of buck activity this time of year. So it's real but hard to capitalize on.
Yeah.
In the lower regions of Arkansas, the flood-prone regions of Arkansas, this is the tail, the legitimate tail of the main part of the rut. And I wouldn't know that from experience. That's just what I've been told. We, though, have seen the first day I was here, like the first 100 yards that I walked was the highlight of my week so far when I jumped a buck and a doe.
Yeah.
And then I jumped some other does and 2 bucks. And so, like, all the deer I saw had does that I saw had bucks trailing them. Tonight, coming out of the woods after dark, we saw a big buck and a doe. Well, you guys did. And
yeah, sure enough.
And
that's a funny deal.
And so it feels like that there is some rut activity down here, the eastern part of the state, flood prone regions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of
so.
wild. So, did you give us the number?
For the whole state?
Well, that's what the idea is. But go ahead.
3. It would be 3 because in the Ozarks it would basically be 1, and here it would be a 6. So it'd be the average would be a 3.
A 6.
Quick math.
I like it.
It's quick
I
math.
like it. So Tyler,
Yep.
we're going to talk to some other people around the country who got a little bit of experience in the woods right now. Who are we talking to?
Yes, sir. We got a few people lined up. Lucas Psycho, good friend of ours. He's in North Dakota, and the dude kills big deer every single year.
Every year.
Multiple sometimes. It's unbelievable, really. So definitely worth listening to. Nate Crick from Identical Draw. He's been in Nebraska. Give us a report there. They spend a lot of time there. Brian Schertz is a good friend of ours from Texas, down local to us. He owns On Target Archery, which is our local archery shop. They take care of us there. Super good people. He's been up in Iowa, where he's from. Has a lot of experience there over the years, and went and did a Depop hunt that, like, they shot all kinds of deer on that hunt. And then lastly, we had Parker McDonald, who's been in Alabama, as he usually is, and hunts the many different ruts of Alabama. And one of those, I think, is coming up here pretty soon. So we can check in with those guys and see what those rut movements are like across the
Sounds
country.
good. Hopefully I can get a little inspiration as to what to do in the morning, because right now I'm at a loss. Let's see if these guys got some good ideas. On the phone, I've got the one and only Lucas Psycho. Don't pronounce it Keiko. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Appreciate that. Hey, man, it's going well up here. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. We feel like we're cold, but I'm sure we're not compared to where you are, because you live actually like on the Arctic Circle. I think it's probably the
Santa comes your way first.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm on the southern edge of the Arctic Circle.
Yeah. Well, you're in North Dakota. Been doing some hunting up there, man, and it looks like you may have found one.
Yep. Bumped into one here this past weekend. I've had the last 9 days off straight to hunt, and it's been a while since I got to hunt this later season. And lo and behold, the rut actually ramped up about the November 30th. Like, wow. It really. I guess it was always going, but daylight activity really ramped up. That latter part of the rut there.
That's cool. So, what a coincidence that you, Mr. Just knows how to hunt deer, happened to take a late, vacation to hunt deer, and the rut ramped up. Did you have any insight as to like that was going to be the way?
Well, so it was actually the muzzleloader tag. I had a muzzleloader tag I drew. It's been 13 years since I drew it, so it kind of put me in that time frame right there to hunt that 2 weeks, anyways. Mm-hmm. So, but knowing what I went through in this last 2 weeks, it's like I'll definitely push them back a little further, because we get a lot of the nighttime activity in the rut here now through through November. Mm-hmm. And there was obviously them daylight activity, here and there, but it ramped way up. There was way more people talking about bucks running all over the place that right at the end of November, first week of December up here.
Yeah, we saw some similar things, really, and have talking to people across the country on this thing over the last few weeks about how the rut, really was just so different this year than it's ever been, it seems like.
Right.
And it's odd. I don't know what the factors are or why that happens, but how's the weather been? Like, is it average as far as like your temps and stuff like that in the last week?
Yeah, it's been a little on the colder side.
Okay.
We got into the sub-zero temps here in this last week and a half, couple of times.
So do you feel like the weather has much effect on the perceived rut?
Yeah. Well, what I seen is anytime that weather takes a hard dip like that, when generally it's not to be expected, it locks the deer up a lot. There's just not a lot of movement. It's weird. It's like they just hunker down and wait it out.
Yeah.
So when I seen it was hitting, and deer movement was way low the 2 days that was sub-zero temps out there. And so I stuck it out. I didn't have any choice. I wasn't going to not hunt. So it was brutal, but yeah, it definitely puts a damper on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That definitely, we saw the same thing. I saw the same thing in Oklahoma during the rut as well, where like we got some pretty cold temps and weren't seeing much movement, which is interesting for sure. So, I would assume that this time of year you guys are liable to have a just brutal weather front at any moment. If that happens in the next week or so, how would you go about trying to kill a buck? You have to get super tight to bedding, I guess, right?
Lo and behold, we have a massive front moving in right now tonight, and we're supposed to get like anywhere from 6 to 15 inches, give or take.
Sounds like a good time to have a field tag.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, just perfect. Yeah. So, anyways, my dad is still after one of the bucks that I was after, along with this one that I got. And so he was just frequenting the area a little bit as well, where I killed this one. And so he and I were already going over a game plan for him for tonight, because it's the night before these fronts move in. It's always fire, man. Mm-hmm. Like up here, and sometimes the day as it's hitting, it's good. But then once it sets in, it's going to go dead for the time period of while it's here. And then it's going to be that first 6 to 8 hours after that snow stops and it calms down a bit, man, them deer are going to be right back up and rolling again. So
Nice.
Sounds like an exciting week, man. So if you had to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10 for buck movement, what would you rank the upcoming week?
So I'd say this day, and then so today, tomorrow, I'd say 10 to 10 because it's just everything's going to be moving today and tomorrow. And then it's going to take a massive dip down to like a 2-3 for like however many hours, 24, 36 hours while that thing's here on top of us. It'll take a massive dip, and then it is going to fire right back up to that 7, 8, 9 range probably right that first day after it. So and then in general right now the deer movement is really well because they're on that bed to feed. They're trying to regroup, from running that rut real hard. So it's pretty good,
This is trustworthy information, guys. If you're listening, this guy knows what he's talking about, man.
That is for sure. The proof is in the pudding, man. Psycho knocks down big ones every year. So, dude, congrats on another big buck. Congrats on getting the tag filled before the sub-zero temps hit. And, man, I hope that y'all have plenty of firewood stocked up.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. Appreciate you guys. It's always fun to get out and chat with you guys.
Cool, Lucas. Thanks, man. See ya.
Yep, thanks.
On the phone right now, we have got the man, Parker McDonald. I tell you what, I will take a sick Parker over most guys when it comes to the deer woods, and that's what we've got right now.
He can find deers,
That's
man.
right.
He can find deers.
Parker, give us the truth. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm not feeling too great. Woke up this morning at 2:30 to go out. My dad's here. We do a rutcation every single year here in Alabama, and we've hunted a couple days, not seen a ton. We've seen a little bit, but not a ton. And woke up this morning, had the first north wind that we've had in probably a week and a half, maybe more than that. It's just been rainy and hot here. And so we finally get this north wind, and I'm jacked up going into some of these really good spots that I've been waiting for. And I got hit with the kidney stones this morning. And me and Dad spent from 2:30 till about 7 with me crying on the floor in the living room. And then he took me to the ER, and I got some painkillers. And if I didn't have these painkillers right now, dude, I'd probably be still on the floor crying. It's about the worst. It's about the worst pain you could possibly imagine. I don't know any way to. Y'all normally do a buck movement.
Do the 1 to 10 here?
Yeah. Well, and I was about a 14 on a pain scale this morning, but I'm gonna keep grinding, dude. It's my November rut. I was supposed to be gone to Kentucky and Tennessee for 16 days, and I got kidney stones then as well, and it knocked me down. My trip ended up being about 4 days.
These are different than the Rolling Stones, right?
Yeah. These are very much. They don't really win any awards, and they suck.
Well, we'll see what else silly we can get you to say since you're on so many painkillers. But let's talk about some of the rut movement stuff. Alabama is notorious for a late rut and probably some interesting rut dates around the state. What are you seeing right now?
Well, right now I'm seeing all my Facebook memories pop up of all these bucks that I've killed from December 1st through the 13th-ish. And so far it just really hasn't happened. I killed a buck on the 2nd of December out here, and he was chasing a doe, but the interesting thing about it was his tarsals didn't even look like they were used. The doe that he was chasing was like legitimately trying to get away from him, and she still had a fawn. I can tell you I've hunted, man, probably 75% of the last 2 weeks, 75% of the days, and I have yet to see a hot doe. I've seen a lot of lone does. I've seen bucks checking scrapes, smaller deer checking scrapes. But if I'm being honest, this is crazy. The biggest deer I have seen in Alabama this year is a big framed 4-point that I saw a few days ago. And man, usually by this time of the year, I've got a couple of bucks on the ground, if not being tagged out. But the last probably 2 or 3 years, I've been I've got all 3 of my bucks in Alabama by this point.
Yeah. So do you expect things to change in the next week or so here?
Man, I hope.
Yeah.
I've been wrong every single time this year about when it's finally going to kick off. We've had a couple of little cold-ish days. When I say cold in the South, I mean, mornings in the 40-degree range and then getting up to 55 or 60 degrees. And I've thought, like, okay, this is going to kick it off. This is finally going to kick it off. And then we get hit with another 4 days of muggy, hot weather and rain, and it just hasn't happened. But start Wednesday. Tomorrow's supposed to be about the same. It's supposed to be 50 degrees, and the wind's coming out of the north. Wednesday we got a lot of rain coming, but cold weather with that rain. And so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then all next week are supposed to be like fairly clear and very cold. So I really do think that's going to kick it off. And everybody in the area, I know you guys have talked to a lot of people in other states that have seen late ruts this year for whatever reason. But typically the WMA and the public area that I hunt, by this point, it's produced a bunch of really nice deer.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And you're just not seeing it. There's been a couple here and there, but it's not been there. And usually the state of Alabama, their Facebook page absolutely promote the crap out of this place.
Sure. So going forward, like in the next week, are you going to be just going, you know what? It's time. The weather's there. We're going to focus on rut tactics, hunting pinches, those kind of things.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've been doing that. That's the bad thing is I've been doing that and just not seeing it. So a couple days ago, got in really, really tight to some thick bedding cover, like really tight. And I've been holding off on getting that tight. And when I was walking out, I ended up bumping a buck to my dad and he couldn't get a shot. But I finally found the sign that tells me that it's at least close, like big, huge, giant rubs,
mm-hmm.
scrapes every 20 yards, that hadn't been hit
mm-hmm.
in a minute. Which to me, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but whenever those scrapes are not getting hit as much or as often, to me, it tells me those bucks are looking for, they're out looking.
I hope that's the case because right now I'm seeing some of that stuff too, and I just feel like they just don't give a hoot. So I like that there is some optimism on the future here, man. And we know the pain scale's a 14. Can you tell us what the buck scale is going to be in the next week on a scale of 1 to 10?
Man, I really think when you get into, I think Thursday and Friday are going to be pretty good, but I think when you get into that, third day of the front and on is going to be probably the best deer hunting that we're going to get to have. The problem for me is that we got to go to Florida for Christmas break. and so I'm going to be out there in that cold rain, I'm just with kidney stones and all. It sucks. And it's unfortunate that I got to deal with it, but it's not a good enough excuse for me to stay home.
There you go.
Just can't.
Well, way to be tough, Parker. I can't wait to see what you produce. A lot of times, adversity makes some pretty cool stuff happen, man. So get out there and get after it. We appreciate the report, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you, guys, and good luck to y'all also for the rest of the season.
On the phone now, I've got Brian Schertz from On Target Archery, our local archery shop. We love this guy, and he shoots some big deer. Brian, you've been up in Iowa recently. It sounds like you had a pretty good hunt.
Yeah, it was a great time. It really was.
Yeah. So, I guess explain what you were doing. You were shotgun hunting, I guess?
Yeah, it was first gun season, which is shotgun or 350 or 450 straight cartridge
mm-hmm.
that you can use legally or a muzzleloader, but it has to be a straight wall type shell.
Gotcha.
But yep, it's basically a slug gun. You can't use buckshot, but it was in southern Iowa where we were at.
Gotcha. So you were doing drives, I guess?
Yep, we're doing. We'd put people on stand, and then people would walk through we'd drive hunt. There'd be we call them walkers.
Mm-hmm. So the standers are actually standing, or are they on a tree stand or a platform or something?
Oh no, we just stand against a tree. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're on the ground the whole time.
Gotcha. So how do you decide how to, like, where there's going to be bucks and how to push them out and everything?
Okay, so basically what you have is you have a lot of ag. I mean, it's primary ag fields that we're walking it's like drainage ditches that we're walking is heavy timber, really brushy, thick, nasty, crawl on your knees through stuff to get through when you're we're considered the pusher or the walker.
Gotcha.
And then they'll push those draws, and they've done it so many years. I mean, 20 plus years they've done this same. I guess it'd be like almost like 6 farms that the landowners want us to reduce the deer population because it's such a detriment to the ag that goes on there.
That's cool, man. So how do you determine what is a shooter in that? Are you still trying to go and shoot a big buck when that's going on, or are y'all just meat hunting, or what's it look like?
It's pretty much a meat hunt. Now, we will run across some rather large animals.
Yeah, a few of those
because, yeah, a few of those there. It's just one of those things where it's so thick, you'll walk right by, a 5 or 6 year old buck because they've done that so many times that they just know to stay still. And guys that know how to push it will get them up, but like newbies or guys that haven't done it much will walk right by the big bucks because they just don't understand where they bed down, and they'll just hold tight until you walk by.
What's the strategy on actually getting a shot off? Are you doing something to make the animal stop, or are you practicing your running shots, or what's that look like?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
When you're used to shooting a bow a lot, like myself, it takes a little while to get you try to lead them. You shoot way over them or way under them or way in front of them because you don't realize the bullet's going to get there faster than what an arrow would. So it takes a little while, but a lot of times they'll actually stop and they'll come into, because they'll run into a draw and just kind of stop thinking, oh, I'm out of the pressure now, and they'll stop right in front of you, and you'll get some decent shots that way too.
Gotcha.
But most of them they're kind of, how a deer, you spook them and they'll kind of look back at you after you do it, and that's when they normally get a good shot off.
That's where the mess up happens for them, for sure.
Yep.
So kind of going forward there then, is that gun season over? Is that still something that's going on up there right now?
They have a first shotgun, and then they have a second shotgun.
Gotcha.
And the second shotgun is going on right now.
Gotcha.
So I just got back from the first one.
If you weren't trying to do the push thing, and maybe you're a solo guy, what's the outlook look like for that? Are you thinking that hunting evenings, or what's going to be kind of the key?
Well, I was fortunate enough. I have some property I can hunt up there. And so we pushed the first 2 days. I went with them and did the whole drive thing. And then I set on my own property and set just like a regular bow hunter, just basically set in the stand and just kind of played it. Are they going to come to ag fields or, come to eating and stuff like that? But what I seen was the evenings were phenomenal. The mornings weren't so. When you sat, the mornings weren't that great. I mean, there was a little bit of activity, but it was just kind of getting out of the bed and just browsing around the bedding areas. What they were doing.
Yep. Okay.
But the evenings they were definitely coming to ag fields. I mean, it was crazy to see how many were in the fields after the hunt. You drive and you see them out in the middle of the field after shooting legal shooting time, and it was just like, oh my God, there's 100 deer out in the middle of the cornfield.
Was there any particular food source that they preferred?
Well, a lot of them in the cornfields, but alfalfa, like an alfalfa field that was a good alfalfa, man, they were like stacked like cordwood in those.
Really?
And it was nuts how many there were in there in my particular area. I mean, it could be different somewhere else, but it seemed like the ag fields and the cornfields.
Yeah.
And not much in the beans. If there were standing beans, you might see some, but most of the time the corn that was down. Of course, on the end rows where they knocked down some corn, there's corn there. So.
Okay. Well, that's good information, man. So if you were going to be hunting in Iowa, especially southern Iowa where you're at in the next week or so. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think the buck movement would be like?
I've talked to a lot of my friends up there and relatives and stuff, and what I see is get on the edge of some ag fields and get some funnels. Get in those funnels where they're coming out to feed on those end rows and things like that, because that's premium. I mean, they're definitely off of does now. What I see. Now the bucks and does were out in the field together at night when I was driving around. You could see them. I mean, after the season was over, it was over on Wednesday, and I went out like any hunter. You go out and look and see what's out there, and you're going like, oh my gosh, I should have hunted over here,
Yep.
The what ifs,
if onlys, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Brian, so on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it for the next week?
Next week, I would say it's going to be a good solid 7.
Ooh, that's pretty nice, man.
Nice.
Gotcha. That's exciting.
All right. If only I had a tag.
Exactly. I think the pressure will come off and those bucks will come out more,
Cool.
because they push, a lot of places push up there. And so after they get past this last gun season, I think they're going to relax and come to feed, because they're going to be held up in the woods. I mean, because they are feeling a lot of pressure right now.
Yeah. Well, perfect, man. Well, thank you for the report, and that's good, helpful information, and we'll be talking to you again soon.
All right. Sounds good, man. Good luck.
Okay, here I've got Nate Crick from Identical Draw. Nate, you've been in Nebraska lately. Has it been cold up there?
It's been pretty cold, but it's also kind of been, I guess I'd say it's been pretty average for this time of year in December. Nothing frigid, but it's been mornings in the, mid 20s to 30s, and then it's actually warmed up to 40s lately. So yeah, kind of average.
Yeah, and that's, you guys spent some time there, so that's kind of average. And have you had any snow?
No snow really yet. We had some a while back, but I think I'm seeing some on the forecast. But it's been not a whole lot of precip.
Yeah. So here in this second week of December, what have you been focusing on when you're hunting up there in Nebraska, and what would you have been trying to kill bucks doing?
Right. Yeah. So this last weekend I was out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I actually saw several pretty decent bucks. This was private land I was hunting, but man, I feel like after November leaves, everybody kind of forgets about kind of the doe movement and doesn't really care about that much anymore, which, hey, it's definitely less than a few weeks prior in November. But man, every single buck that I saw was still with some does. I saw a couple spikes that were off by themselves, but I saw at least a couple. I saw at least an 8-point, and then maybe an 8 to 10 point further off, and they were actually following a string of does still. So that is something to definitely consider still this time of the year. And they were actually maybe it was kind of dependent on where I was hunting, but we were hunting pretty close to some bedding cover. And I was seeing those bucks still following a couple does. So.
That's cool. So was that mornings or evenings when you saw those bucks with those does?
I think I saw them both in the evenings.
Okay.
Still had really solid doe movement in the morning, but I saw both of those bucks moving probably within that last hour of the day.
Gotcha. Were they headed to some agriculture food source, or what were they really doing?
Yeah, so they were. And this area of Nebraska where I was hunting is these bucks, man, all these deer just travel a ton. And the food sources actually were on this property were pretty limited. So yeah, they were actually moving quite a ways to get to that food source, which I think was actually helping maybe get them up on their feet a little bit earlier to get to that food source. But yeah, they were on their way. Every single time I saw them, they were pushing to an ag field that was probably half mile or so.
Gotcha. So if you were going to kind of maybe target bucks still right now, would you be, I guess you mentioned bedding cover. Would you be hugging tight to that bedding cover, especially on the colder days? Because a lot of guys burn vacation and stuff during November, and then if they don't have a buck tag field, they kind of have to pick and choose what days they use. So how would you navigate that?
Yeah. First, man, if I still have a buck tag to fill actually this winter.
All right.
And, man,
so let me ask you the question personally. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be waiting for extremely cold temps, just basically as cold as we can get. And then I'm going to honestly be working those travel areas. Like I always say to people during this year, man, get back to your scouting mentality that you kind of have early season, because they are kind of starting to get predictable again this time of the year, working the food sources a little bit more, bedding in certain areas more, kind of settling down from the rut. And so I'm like, man, spend a few days really figuring out where that deer movement is centralized, and then go hunt it tight. Like I'm gonna hug that bedding cover real tight. I mean, it's an aggressive mentality, but I'm still like, man, if I only got a few weeks in December to kill a buck, I'm like, I'm gonna scout it hard for a few days, and I'm gonna go in and really try to kill one.
Mm-hmm. So as we look forward for the next week here, I haven't really looked at the forecast for Nebraska, but you being a current tag holder, I bet you have it on your mind. Do you foresee that cold temperature coming up in the next week, and what do you expect the deer to be doing then?
Yeah, it is. We've actually got a real good drop Tuesday to Wednesday. I think Tuesday's temps are mid-50s, and I think Wednesday's got a high in the 30s, bringing some north winds. So, yeah, Wednesday and Thursday are actually looking pretty primo, and then honestly through the weekend, which of course I've got a bunch of family events, but I'm going to definitely be hunting some Thursday and Friday, just because I know those cold temps will really get those bucks moving. And like I just said, I'm going to be really primarily focusing in on where they're getting to that food source from. So,
Okay. So if you had to guess with that cold weather coming up in the next week, what buck movement would be, and make an estimate on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rank it?
Man, I'm going to rank it actually pretty high. I'm talking like probably 8 or 9 out of 10.
Woo, yes. Man.
I think it's going to be real good.
Things are getting good.
We'll mark you down for an 8.5, sir.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right.
Man, December's been so mild. I'm like, as soon as this big temp drop comes, I think everything that has been chilling out the last few weeks is going to be moving. So
Yeah. They've been getting used to that easy stuff, man.
That's right.
Yep.
Got to get on their feet when it's
Times
cold.
are fixing to get hard, you know.
Well, dude, hope you do well with that tag. It sounds like you have the optimism it takes. You just got to go out there and put it into play, and I know you will, man.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, dude. Thanks.
Yep.
I hope that y'all are still in pursuit of whitetail deer, because deer season is not over. It's a great time of year to kill a big buck, and it's also a great time of year to capitalize on maybe a little less hunting pressure and a little more insulation, because it's the holiday season and you get to eat a lot and go hunting. There's nothing better than that, guys. So if you want a little extra inspiration or something fun to do, you should go check out the newest video on the Element YouTube channel, where our very own Greg Latham shoots an awesome Texas Hill Country buck on his family place. It's a really cool hunt, self-filmed by him, first self-filmed hunt ever. There's also a good article by Mark Kenyon on corner cutting wins to kill big bucks. And then I want to make sure and give my special friend here, Clay, a little plug for the Bear Grease podcast, a little podcast out there. Supposedly on the day that this podcast airs, also one of the most compelling and interesting Bear Grease podcasts ever produced will be released. So y'all be sure and check that out. Can't tell you anything more about it. That's how Clay treats us. He says you got to listen. So we'll listen. Remember, guys, this is Rut Fresh. Keep it fresh.